What's going on? Hey, Reed. Howdy.
Morgan knows her. That's his assistant's name, that gal, you know.
What's up, Ryan?
Isn't it Ainsley?
Good.
Is it not?
Yardsley. How about Yardsley?
No. It's not
Abby
Yardsley. Yardsley's not even a name.
It's not a name.
It's not possible. Oh, the meeting's not till 7?
It's what?
It's not
Bill,
till
Reed.
7.
Not till 7. This is our work meeting. But you're welcome.
Okay.
Go have dinner.
Come back.
Go have tea. Here's your half day today, wasn't it? Kylie? Was it your half day today or something? Don't you get up early on Thursday? I get up early here in the morning. No. They still put the time. Is Lisa coming? We better put enough time. Yeah.
Yeah, but Debbie's going to.
I just sent
Are you having to do your 5?
When was your operation?
Request.
You what?
When is it?
When was Debbie's operation?
Oh, okay.
We
Yeah, but now I
could
have a
go.
problem and I'm not
She
set
had
for
it on a Monday,
And then
so a week, been a week ago, last
do
Monday.
it. It was a hit. It's no big
So
deal.
a week
They
later,
hit,
Just send
yep.
it out.
she'll need another week.
You know, you're a live person. I think they
She
find
does
you
good on
you're
Zoom.
130 years old on the payroll.
I might be better on Zoom.
Yeah.
You don't hear as much. In terms of being able to sit at home and do it, it's very positive.
Well, I think you guys run pretty lean and mean, I would think. You know,
We'll wait for a second till we get Debbie on.
okay.
Recording in progress.
There's so many jobs in Washington DC.
Really.
Cool place. Where that is. Jobs that never even see.
That's a picture of my vacation history.
That's pretty nice. I
Thanks.
was trying to think
That's
where it was.
Island Park.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you would want to sleepwalk, but
Well,
other than that,
sure enough. But that's the people
That you need. Yeah, you
wonder how they get all that buildup.
hopefully it works.
Well, you probably got a aqueduct.
Yeah,
Upside down.
Room vacation.
Okay, we would like to welcome everyone here tonight to our work meeting. It is Thursday, March 6th. We want to welcome Debbie. She's on Zoom, and Lisa will be joining us, I believe, shortly. Okay, so let's just go through, start off as far as agenda items. If you have any questions, things we can discuss about our agenda items.
I do.
Okay,
Yeah.
should we start with the or the first thing on
Oh.
ours, I mean, not that we have to, but the first thing is going to be on the Matt Lowe. Do we want to, or we don't need to, but that's our first thing on our agenda.
I didn't really have anything on him, but do you guys?
Any questions? So,
Oh, well, maybe Malcolm can answer this. So in our packet it shows, and I probably know the answer, it says 153 lots. And it's on the recording that I listened to, it was 103. So what is it? Because 153 would be like third acres, right?
Yeah, he is bringing the same plan that he's been discussing. He has two alternatives. One of them is a half acre one that's probably the 100 lot, and the other one, I'd have to pull them up, but there are two of them. One of them more of a blended one that's yielding a higher amount of lots. One of them was a straight half acre that was like 100. The blended one that's 153, I think he's donating that big park in the back.
Oh, I see. Okay. All right. I got it.
And so because he's donating that big park, he's kind of putting like a blended community where he's got some small lots and it yields a number of higher lots that we get that park. The other one's just like a straight half acre, 100
Okay.
lot subdivision.
I got it. I thought these were both the same, but I can see it.
Yeah, yeah. So the one's just the donation of that lot in the back.
and the one, they're pretty much third-acre lots, and the other one are half-acre lots, and then they still have those larger ones, but they actually go into the floodplain. So, but you do see on the one, it's,
Oh, I see the thing.
So I guess that would be a little bit of concern if part of the lots.
Yeah, because he's
floodplain.
donating this, in theory, he's giving a higher, he's getting more lots out of this one.
well, one thing.
This one,
not
it's,
part of it.
this one is just
Explain
one
this.
lot. He's gonna sell that as a lot to someone who's gonna try and build like there and have a big old, I don't know, 20, little farm.
So one thing too, what this is tonight, is it is just, they're coming to ask if we are willing to open the general plan to amend our zoning. So it doesn't mean that we are approving tonight for zoning. All this means is that if whether you are willing to open the general plan or not. When Malcolm comes back in, I'll have him explain this a little bit to you too. So Malcolm and I went and met with a neighboring city that's a little bit further up. We went down and met with West Point, and they kind of explained their process, which I'll have Malcolm explain that. That we think maybe it might be something for us to consider we might want to do, we might not. So like we're doing tonight, they have them come and say, okay, well first they went to Planning Commission, as you know, to ask this, and they were denied. So now they're coming to us. So that would be the proper procedure, but then what they do is then they put together a development plan that they work with City Council to do that, which states, okay, if you are going to build in our community, this is the size, like if whether it's commercial or houses, this is what we expect. Even it could be the color that we would want them to be, you know, if we wanted so much rock, if you want so much landscaping, whatever it would be. So that would come to City Council and then say, yes, we really like this development plan. Then it would go to Planning Commission, and they would have to approve that before they ever say we want quarter-acre lots, half-acre lots, commercial, whatever we're doing. So City Council has more of a buy-in. Okay, this is the development agreement that we would even consider. And they said it works two ways. So one way is then we're not saying, okay, yes, we will let you rezone, and then we have no control. So they have to agree to what we want them to do before we would even let them rezone. But I'll let Malcolm explain a little bit. Or Malcolm, I was just briefly telling them a little bit about.
So that raises
West
the question, would they fall under the new Title X thing then? You know what I mean? Where, you know, supposedly we would have control, but now there's new rules, so we really wouldn't. Is that right?
I was telling about the development agreement. So they would come here tonight and then do the so explain a little bit about that, how that process might look.
Yeah, in my opinion, we can do it however you guys want, but seems like Hooper has an application to open the general plan. But in my opinion, you guys can interpret it. I don't think that would, like if we did tonight decide, yeah, we'll open the general plan, that wouldn't grant anything or, you know, accept anything. It would simply just say we're going to begin a mutual process of developing a developer's agreement, and then B, the zoning that would take place as part of this, and how those would coincide, and then we would bring both of those with the City Council, get them figured out together, and then they'd have to apply for a rezone application with their developer's agreement, you know, in place as well, and then they'd be granted their rezone with the developer's agreement in the same meeting after, you know, the general plan is open. But before we went through that process, I think it makes sense that they at least get a, you know,
The commitment to
that
open
we
a
would be
general
willing
plan.
to entertain it
Yeah.
if it was amenable, you know, throughout the process.
And then that maybe gives City Council an opportunity to say, look, if we're going to let you rezone, so tonight all we're saying is yes or no, whether we're going to allow them to open the general plan. We're not saying we're going to allow them to rezone. It's just opening the general plan with the possibility of amending the general plan as far as the what their zoning is. But then it would give City Council the opportunity to say, okay, if we're going to allow this is some things, some considerations. Like Malcolm said, he's been working on one with the city, and they tell him what color. Like I was telling him, you know, color, if it has to be two-toned, landscaping, so much open space, so much, and that would be then up to City Council to say, yes, we would like this in our community. And then it would go back to Planning Commission to say, okay, we're come back, we agree to this, we want to rezone.
It's kind of a way to allow the council to still have a say in what the whole thing looks like, because they don't approve the amendment of the general plan until they know what is going to be built, and you kind of approve it all at the same time. So that would be a way to avoid the new law that says the Planning Commission makes all the decisions, because they can't make the decision on the changing of the map.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's the key and again, I'm so new, I don't understand. You guys may have taken some of these through and do understand better than me, but I think the last thing we want to do is grant a rezone at a meeting like tonight, right? We want to hold the rezone until we're completely agreeable with the development. And so I think this is like a preliminary, that's how I view our process should go.
It's It's really an amendment of the map, is a better way to say it.
It's not
Yes,
a
it's
rezone.
up- no.
It's an amendment of the land use map is what it is. We're not even considering the rezone at this point.
No,
So opening the general plan just changes the land use map to what's allowable.
but I like having city council have some say with that. You know, what we would like to see, and then if they're not agreeable, and that will give you the opportunity to say, well, we would allow for this, they agree, then they can bring it for rezone. If they don't agree, then they've got to change it to what city council thinks would be an agreeable plan. And then it would go to planning commission, and then city council to which they have to anyway for the rezone, and then they would start the process.
I would anticipate that, you know, if we said, yeah, we'll open the general plan, however we want to term it, that we would create a developers agreement at the city office level. You guys would go to a meeting, the planning commission, right, with the developers agreement. They would recommend that developer agreement to city council, and they go back to city council to accept the developers agreement as it's written with the rezone application at the same time. So I think it'd go to both, you know, both entities too.
But again, a developer's agreement you're talking about would be a development like this size lots and
Yeah.
things.
Yeah, I do think
Well-
at a high level it's important that if they present something, would you consider opening this area or the map like you guys just described for something comparable to this? If we're way off, then it sure seems like we don't want to go through that effort and that process if it doesn't have any merit or grounds at all, so.
I think the way it's presented is still way off, in my opinion. I mean, it's just rows and rows of barracks housing is all it looks like to me, whether it's third acre or half acre. I mean, it'd be fun to sit down with a land use architect and say, give us something that's amenable. Give us something that's nice with the rows and rows of.
And everything's below, there's a lot of it that's below what's not
Yeah.
buildable. I mean, it's gonna be, below the 4220.
Here's what I've been thinking about this for a while now, just because he's back and forth, and when he comes up, I want to just kind of reiterate the timeline of what he's been in for this and that, and just kind of catch everybody up to where we're at. But I got thinking about, like, in my opinion, you know, all these developers they say that they want to do something good for the community. We want to help you. This right here, the only thing it's going to benefit the community, it's going to bring good people.
Right.
And with that comes a cost. So I got thinking, what the heck could he do? So I would like to see, and I would definitely consider open general plan if we did, say he did a 9-hole golf course and and we give him some higher density than even half acre. He could still, he can do 60 acres. He could do a 9-hole par 3 with a couple fours, probably a miniature golf, maybe even a driving range. He might have to partner with Heritage up there. And then he could build on the floodplain. You know, he could put the golf course and utilize that. All the houses would be up front towards the road, so his cost would be lessened. I would like him to look at something like that, you know.
I would anticipate that. I would be shocked if they think one of these is the alternative that's going to be selected. I think they're coming again simply because they went to planning commission. They waited their year in planning commission at one point. I think Mr. Sheldon mentioned, look at something else that would be beneficial. They've been really lost and keep asking me, what else does the city want?
Yeah.
But similar to what you're saying, they want some direction on what would be entertained or not.
And I think within that, you could have a pro shop, you could have a cafe, you could have
Something commercial.
something commercial. You could have office buildings. You know, the Ogden Airport's close by. Yeah, there are a lot of golf courses around, but I think it still is something to look at. That would be a benefit to the community, I see. And we could probably give him high enough density where it would pencil for him in his terms, that it would make sense for him to build it. That's what I would like to see, something like that, instead of just another liability, you know, because that's all we've done is houses. We need something to stimulate the community and be an asset.
Right.
But we don't want to run the golf course. It's not a city golf course, it'd be private.
So the one time he came in, I suggested, go look at Green Farms, which I always say that, but I think it's one of the most well-designed community, developments I've seen. They have that little community center, they have pickleball, And so, and then I said that, and then they came back and it was the Barrick style. And I think I offended him at that meeting because I said, this looks like Barrick's to me. And it does. So I agree, Bryce. I think if they bring something that looks like it would be something, but I think this is where, like Malcolm's talking about this development agreement, that then as a city council with staff and planning commission, we need to figure out what we want the city to have. Like, what are we encouraging people to bring, not just rows and rows of houses. So. Okay, any other comments, thoughts on that? We'll wait and see what they present tonight, and it is a public hearing, and so it will be opened up for people to be able to, make comments with the public hearing. And so, and then after we close that, then his motion will be, or whatever he's going to be asking us to be willing, like you said, to look at the general plan with the opening of that. Okay, Bryce, you said you had some things you wanted to
just
talk
on,
about.
I do have some things, but if you want to just go through the agenda item.
Well, I think that was the first agenda item.
Okay.
Did you have anything else?
We can just
on-
go through the agenda. I can do this at the end. I got like some bullet points I just want, that I've
Okay.
written down that I'd like, just in writing. Sometimes we request something and it kind of gets lost and then we never get it. So I'm
Get back
put
to
it in
it.
writing so everyone can have a copy of it.
Okay, well then we can go on. So one thing we're going to be, well, of course, the minutes are next. But then one thing we're going to be talking about tonight, well, a couple of things as far as with legal. So we have the legal interim services, also the RFP for legal services, which is what we need to discuss with that tonight. So I did go back and find back on May 3rd of 2001, there was a resolution appointing Reed Richards as our Heber City attorney. Reed had given me some direction where to go look for that. So I need to see what you feel like that we need to do with that. It doesn't list Brandon, so I still feel like we probably, this is just my thinking, we need to have some kind of probably a contract, or, we are supposed to have things go out to bid. So whatever you think with that, but this,
I think, was that 2001?
2001, it was
Yeah, 'cause-
May 3rd, 2001.
Yeah, because a friend of mine was on the city council and he remembers doing that. But I
Yeah.
didn't know where to find it.
Yeah, we had two bids at that time
Yeah.
from two different law firms, and they selected Reed.
Here's what I'm thinking on all this. I think when Ryan made the motion to do an RFP and retract the RFP and do an intern thing, I don't think we had all the information necessary. So what I think we're all in agreement that we want to retain Brandon and Reed. I mean, that's a given. We've all decided that. So to do an RFP and have an intern contract is unnecessary. We don't need to do that. We don't need to put an RFP out. I don't believe we did one for JUB. I think we just need to initiate a contract that's agreeable to us and Brandon and Reed with their fee structure and kind of what's expected, and then go from there. I think it's just going to be some wasted time if we do the RFP. I think it would be, in my opinion, it would be kind of offensive to them. Like, hey, you want us, but now you're going to go solicit, other bids. I don't think that's what we want.
Right, and as far as I know, an RFP is not a legal requirement
That's right.
for this situation.
It only is when you want to make a change. And from the consensus of the city council, we want to make a change.
If Brandon and Reed are agreeable.
If they're,
Stay with us.
You
Yeah,
guys
we
want
had
to-
a pretty good talk actually yesterday about all of this, and I thought it was very productive actually. And this, and I think what we're going to talk about maybe in a few minutes on how we run meetings. I'm glad to see Kylie here. I think he can be a good part of that. But we're happy to go ahead. I would like to have a little more flexibility from my end to not attend all your meetings. If you have a meeting you think I need to come to or Brandon needs to come to, I think that's great. But I don't think you need me at all the meetings, frankly, and there's no sense paying the cost of having me here. If you've got a legal question, I think happy to answer those things and come to a meeting if there's a need to do that. We talked about the possibility of maybe having one of us, usually Brandon, but maybe me sometimes, come out once a week to meet with Malcolm and go over all of the land issues that we have. That really is part of the ordinance that you passed a few weeks ago anyway, that little committee has an attorney giving some advice. And if that was a standard time each week, then if any of you had questions or any things that you wanted to bring up legally, you could come and we could do those at the same time. That would seem to me to be maybe a more efficient way of doing what you need, probably cheaper for you. And for me personally, my Thursday nights are pretty valuable. I've got a lot of grandkids, a lot of ball games that I miss, and I'd love to be able to do those. So anyway, that's my thought. But we'd love to keep working with you. I love Hooper City. I feel like we've been part of the whole creation of your city. I get a little emotional about that. It's a great place to live. So anyway, that's my thought.
I feel like we do need to have some kind of, like you say, an agreement, contract, something that actually lists Brandon.
And we can certainly do that. We can certainly put together a contract. And the contract, in my mind, would be similar, not as verbose as the one with JUV, but similar to that. What you're doing is just saying, we'll be your attorney. Here's the rate that we'll charge. It's open-ended. If you decide you don't want us anymore, that's fine. If we decide we can't do it anymore, that's fine. And it just gives you something in writing to add to what was in the resolution years ago. And we're happy to put that together.
Okay, that sounds good. Any other thoughts?
I like it.
Is that all right?
Questions?
Yep.
Okay. Okay, so the next thing then is discussing on the agenda. So that was really interesting because when I was going through, Morgan and I were to try to find this, you'll see in our Municode, and that's in the packet, and it shows the meeting agenda, the order of business shall be. When they very first started, and it was right in this order, you know, they had this approval of it. I mean, they actually listed them like this. It was in it's like this.
Right in the
this
code.
page. Yeah, it was in the packet.
Of the whole,
Of the whole packet.
Packet, okay.
Yeah.
I can pull it up if you want again. Don't remember why that was done. So. Me too.
Go on the back side.
I'll just look at yours.
Anyway, so you'll see that there are things with this, and I think, you know, it was mentioned about citizen comments, and so right at the beginning, it has been at the end, but this is up to you, as a city council, what we want to do. Some of these things that are listed on here, we don't really do anymore in our city council agendas. So I think we need to decide how we want our meetings to look like. This has not been changed since the city was created, and this was what came about in like November of 2000. And so, you know, you see the approval of the minutes, of course, approval of business licenses is needed. There are very few business licenses that city council actually approves. Those are just the commercial ones, and there's only specific commercial ones that even city council approves. So, you know, how their agendas looked is they had all of these things, and then if there was something underneath them, they did them, and then if not, they didn't. So I don't know. We maybe want to change our Municode and arrange this differently, or maybe take some of these off, whatever, how you feel like you want it to be. You know, we have had a discussion about, so like I say, public citizens' comments have always been at the end. Some cities do them at the beginning. Some cities do have them open to anything. Some cities have them only on agenda items. And, you know, as we've talked about, if you have them open to anything at the beginning of the meeting, then every meeting does basically become a public hearing. But again, that's up to city council if that's what you want to do. Sometimes that gets difficult. So some suggestions with that. If we do open that up, so every meeting we have comments at the beginning and they can be on anything. A really good suggestion that I heard from someone in this room was that then maybe we have a limit and we say, okay, we will take 10 public comments and people sign in And then we take that list and those 10 people get to, because if not, we could possibly have an hour or two just of public comments before we ever start the meeting if we do that every time. But again, we've never really had a discussion on this, you know? The only thing we ever did was we kind of discussed, you know, because I was listing him at the beginning. Yeah, that was Lieutenant Slater.
He's dying to comment on
I was
that.
gonna say.
He gave me that great suggestion.
Come on up here,
Well,
Lieutenant.
Limiting
He's
it.
got some great ideas.
Yeah, come sit up
This
here.
chair's for him.
Come join us.
I will comment, I don't know that we've had a problem with that before in meetings.
Well, you'll notice also on that same ordinance, it says that the city council by majority vote can change the order or can,
Yeah, sure.
so you don't really need to do an ordinance, but you can change it however
Just
you want.
change it, yeah.
And I wondered if that was kind of when it talks about the convenience of the applicants, because sometimes we have done that. You know, we'll have someone and then someone will make the motion, well, let's have this first rather than making them wait. One pro about having them at first is people don't like sometimes waiting to the end. They want to come and make their public comment and leave. So we kind of, okay, anyway, tell them, because you're the one that gave me that suggestion about the 10.
Yeah, so some of my history, I've worked with the county commission for the last 3.5 years. They made some changes. I've worked with the school board. You know, the school board has I think it started out as a paper sign-in. There's now electronic sign-in. Definitely, any of these ways, there's pros and cons to everything, right? But sometimes people want to be heard on the agenda before discussions being made. You know, there is the public comments, right? Or the public hearing issue that everything turns into it. So, you know, moving forward, I don't know that I have an exact thing, but sometimes people want to be heard for the agenda items. You know, one of my thoughts is that you know, having it open at the end of the meeting potentially can bring controversy, right? And so you have a great meeting that lasts 30 minutes, you get your business done, the same rule, the same concept applies at the start. You then could have a line of citizens that want to talk for 3 minutes apiece, and you get 20 of those, you're at an hour. So about anything, right? So kind of that orderly meeting, you know, that would just be some thoughts of however you wanted to do it. Again, I don't have a pro or con either way. The county commission had some contentious items come up. They did 10 for, 10 against. I believe, you know, the public didn't appreciate that, but they, at the start of the meeting, I believe they only had 4 or 5 for the item. They were able to fill those last, but then that way it schedules an hour for public comments. You might as well put it into a public hearing at that point, maybe. I don't know all the rules and intricacies.
You know, we've had comments at the last couple of meetings that I've been at about having taken off the ability to comment on things on the agenda. And it's true, I'd suggested that maybe that's not the thing you want to do, but that's certainly up to you. It's not a legal issue, it's a policy issue. The challenge is if you let them comment about things on the agenda, if you've got a real hot topic on the agenda, it really turns it into a public hearing every single time. And so there is some merit to say, if you want a public hearing, set a public hearing. Don't allow a public hearing on every issue on the agenda. But that, again, is your decision. If you want to do that, you can certainly do it. There clearly is merit in letting people come in and talk about things that they think you need to know. If it's a problem with a fence in their area or, you know, whatever, a roving dog. What I think you also will need to do is make it clear that public comments cannot be personal attacks. I think that's been deplorable in my opinion. When those have taken place the last few meetings. I think if you just make that clear, you're happy to talk, or you're welcome to talk about business and things with the city. But if you want to make comments about persons and people, particularly council or other employees or workers in the city, we're not here to do that. And there was a question: are we taking away their free speech? The answer to that is no. They have no right to have free speech in your meeting. You don't even have to give them public comment if you don't want. So you can certainly restrict to that extent what they say if you want to do. So anyway, those are my thoughts.
The other one comment to that is if, you know, where the city is districted and the council represents portion of that, they could reach out to the mayor, any of the council people, if they did want to talk about an issue within their neighborhood or whatever, it would just change that format to reach out to one of you to have it put on the agenda. I mean, even at that point, you could put it as a presentation and give them 20 minutes to talk about it, right? So just as it's articulating the agenda a little bit, that's some work, just differences and things, but then that way your public comments at the start, and you could talk about speed limit issues or whatever we want to talk about. You don't necessarily then even have to do a motion on it. You could table that and just discussion. So I don't know. That's my thoughts. Just maintaining the order after the meeting has been arguably one of the problems, and I think some of that's been from I had a conversation with the mayor of that anything goes at the end of the meeting is the problem.
So it's worked out well for the school district and for the commissioners.
Yes.
Their formats, it's worked out pretty good.
Again, it was a Ogden Valley issue. Wasn't really well accepted by the public because, but it's also not productive to stand up and let 60 people talk for 3 minutes about the same thing, just getting up and repeating, right? So as you look at meeting productivity, the meeting overall, right? Balancing that as far as the council and the mayor, that's, having a good objective meeting, can you get, maybe it's 15 opposed and 15 for, whatever that looks like, right? Just in that workaround, to answer your question, it went well that night. The public was upset, but the commissioners felt that that's what they needed to do. My time during the COVID mandates and the mask mandates up with the school district, I was involved in those conversations, and so highly contentious, if you will. Yeah, we have big public turnout at every meeting that have those contentious items, and so it's just how we navigate through those and still let the public voice their concern, but maintain that order and go that route.
I think if we decide to do something like Reed said, that we say if they come up and have a city issue, that's fine, but we're not going to allow for public attack or personal attacks, then I would address that before the public comments. I think that statement would actually need to be made so people know that if they start to make a personal attack, that they would be stopped, and we would entertain anything on a city issue. But again, that has to be something that you want to do. But if we do, I think that needs to be something stated.
You probably need to train us on what constitutes somebody out of line, right? Because there's obviously they can say a whole lot, but
there is definitely a point in time where thick skin has to be had as a public official, right?
Sure.
But being sure that we're still, my position as a law enforcement officer and sheriff's deputy, right, is that we don't restrict First Amendment. It has to be in relation to the meetings and being, understanding the parliamentary procedure, and I'm not an expert in it, but understanding when we can activate that sergeant at arms for the meeting, if you will.
Yeah, we done it, and maybe.
I was just going to say, I like a lot of these ideas. My main concern and want is that we do allow the public comment like we've had. I want the citizens of Hooper to feel like what they are saying is being listened to and heard. And I think that's really important for us as a council to take into consideration.
You can move that to the front.
So as far as limiting it to 10 people or whatever we decide, are we going to have to pre-sign up, or can they come?
If you go to the school board's website right now, they have an online sign up. I did a little homework this afternoon, just kind of.
Because I don't think everybody would know about that initially, at least. Right?
Yeah, we probably maybe have to announce it for a couple of meetings that we're going to start doing this, if that's what you want to do, so they would know
I
that.
just would hate to exclude anybody that doesn't know the procedure.
Yeah.
Obviously, the online platform would require something to do with a webmaster that, so, you know, simple paper form.
Some of you were probably in that class that we took down when it was down at the league meeting, and they talked about First Amendment rights. They showed us some really bad videos of meetings that were out of control, and I'm not saying ours are like that, but they really did say, yes, you have to honor people's First Amendment rights, but you don't have to allow for people to get up and say terrible things about a city council member or a planning commission member. And that is something that, like Reed has mentioned, as a city council, we can say that. You know, we are not going to allow that.
The other thing that I think, and you've done a pretty good job of this, I didn't see such a good job in the planning commission one meeting, is I think there needs to be an understanding that there's not going to be clapping and cheering. I think that's very intimidating to anybody that has a different point of view, and I think you should allow.
Yeah.
And there are state laws that do come into effect for disruption of a meeting, right? But that has to be done at the chairman or the council, like, they have to be found out of line in that respect. So, I mean, if you watched the presidential debate the other night, right, or not debate, but the address.
Got to carry the guy out.
Yeah, you know, they activated the sergeant at arms and escorted that person out. So, again, that's pretty high-end, high-level, 30,000-foot view of that, right? But just understanding how that process works. I'm not the expert in it, but I've been exposed to, you know, we've had to ask people to leave the commission meetings, and being able to address somebody to stand up, you know, if there's a document that they're going to read that's 20 pages long, how do you control that if it is a disruption of the meeting, right?
Okay.
So, because essentially you could get 10 people to stand up and talk for 3 minutes. Just keep going. It can be 100 people.
It's hard to be on Zoom because I don't know when people, I've got a little bit of a delay, so I hope I don't interrupt anyone.
Sorry.
No, no problem. I appreciate your input. I was wondering maybe if it might be as simple as just limiting the time frame that we allow comments. You know, like we're going to allow comments from this time to this time, and at that point it ends and they have their 3 minutes. And enforce that. And then we wouldn't have, you know, in case someone thinks of something, you know, after they've gotten there or whatever. And maybe it might be as simple as just doing that.
Yeah, there's definitely many options, I think, that the council has
Sure.
to formulate a decision, and
We can always change, we can try one way, and if it doesn't work, we can tweak it.
I believe so.
Yeah.
Sure.
I think so too.
Absolutely.
Well, so look at this, you know, this is something that's on the agenda tonight to discuss and make a motion. If you feel like we're ready to make a motion as far as what we want to do. Tonight's agenda is already set, so we couldn't change it, but this is certainly, you know, something I think we should discuss and see how you would want that to be, and then that's something that we could do, so. Okay, so a couple of, you know what, let Bryce, let's do yours, because I just have a few announcements.
Okay.
Did you have some things you wanted to?
So I wrote some things down after we did after our meeting the other night, and then our budget meeting. I have some questions that, and unfortunately, Ryan, a lot of this is going to fall on you. I'm going to give you some homework. So there's some bullet points that I'd like to be addressed. So I'd like a detailed invoice, and this has to do with you two, Reed, but I think it'd be pretty easy for your secretary to do. From Reed and Brandon Richards, which includes who contacted them and what it was regarding for like the past 12 months. And then also the total amount spent on engineering costs, which would be JUB invoiced itemized since Bryant Jacobs quit. Because it looks like engineering is, I just want to get a thumb, it just looks like engineering is kind of everywhere. And I would like to see exactly what we're spending. And then also the total amount spent on accounting services since Teresa quit. From my perspective, it looks like it's tripled. I don't know if that's correct or not, but it's something to figure out. Just because I think, we took that chunk of money and hired some very good employees with that. However, there's still some holes that I think we're overlooking. Then I would also like the total amount collected from our utility tax. And we began in October. It was a little sparse, October that year, the end of 2023 to present. Because it looks like, in my simple math, there's probably been maybe 700,000 collected. And in our budget, I think there's maybe 200 in that. I'd just like to know where it's going, what it's been used for, and those kind of things. Then another thing, as a council, we'd like, because I know the city has some potential litigation going. From what I understand, there's 3. I'd like someone to be able to update us on that and see where we're at. And I think what we need to do is appoint a person from the city council to act as a liaison in Hooper City's on their legal insurance policy. Because from my understanding, the mayor has some potential conflicts of interest with being the contact just because of your situation. And if that policy's been enacted, I'd like to know who approved any claim, if any claim is currently present, to use the Hooper City's legal insurance policy. So those are some things that were brought up through the course of the last couple of meetings that I'd like, and I think we owe it to our citizens to have some clarity and some transparency on what happened. So I'm going to give you
Yes,
a
that
copy.
would be good, and try and give it to Cammie.
So I
because
presume you're not
think-
talking about criminal litigation. There would
No.
be hundreds of those.
No, just from our city.
But
Yeah.
that's from the city.
Yeah.
You've
Yeah.
probably got 300 criminal cases.
Well,
over the last year.
you know the ones I'm talking about, Morning Meadows and
So those kind. Okay.
those
Yeah,
kind.
okay. And I will have,
I'll get one to.
Bryce, are you okay if Cammie addresses these at our budget work meeting?
I mean, that's okay
Yeah.
other than she's $250 an hour.
Well,
Ryan's free.
Well,
So-
no, but I mean,
I'm just kidding.
at our budget work meeting, she could address
Sure.
these because it's in our financials.
That'd be great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, did you have anything else?
So I'd just like the council to maybe, nominate someone to actually extract some of that information. I was thinking Debbie would be a good one to do that, and I guess we'd all just have to agree upon it. Doesn't have to be a motion, but just kind of a rule, so.
So all the budget things as well, or you're meaning
No,
Ryan on
not the budget things, just
budget?
have to do with the legal stuff, the liaison with our legal insurance policy, just so we know what's going on.
Okay, and some of them, as you know, have to be done in a closed door meeting. We do have some.
Well, I'm sure we'll follow all the rules,
Yep,
so.
yep, okay, that sounds good. Okay, a couple of things coming up then. So Stephanie Russell from Weaver County has a program that she goes around to cities, and she calls it community visioning. And she sits down with the planning commission, with the city council, and she will go through and say, okay, what would you like to see in your community? And give us your ideas. And it's one that she said has been really pretty effective. She's done it, if I start quoting the cities, I will probably get them wrong, but she does it. And she said that is something that she would be, and it's free, the county pays for it because it's part of a county program. If that's something that you would be interested in having, and she said she could come one time and kind of outline the program that the county has, and if we feel like that's something that we're interested in, then she could tell us what things she has available that she could bring. If it's something that we're not interested in, then we could say, no, we're not interested. So I don't know if that's something, but that's what she called it, community visioning. And she said they just go through and say, what are your vision for the city? Like, what kinds of things are you seeing? She had suggested, if you were, of possibly doing it on March the 12th, which is a Wednesday from 5 until 7. She said she would bring, she told me the other person, there's a new person that's in the county that she would bring with them. She'd also mentioned to Malcolm that she could answer questions if anybody has about like the CRA, something's come up with the LRB with that. So is that something you would like me to have her come? Like she said, she can come one time. If it's something that we're not interested in, then she says she doesn't have to again, but she would like to at least present some of the programs that the counties have for cities that are available.
So this include the
Any
planning
thoughts?
commission as well?
Yeah. She said city council, planning commission, She said, if there's others, and I said, well, we do have that new community board, and we have like an economic committee with that, and she said, well, sure, if they would be interested in coming. So that,
Yeah, I was gonna say, I don't think we should make any decision until we've heard a presentation to understand it more.
well, that's what I thought too. She said, I can come and show you, and if you're not interested, then just tell me, no, you're not, and then she said she doesn't have to come back. So that's when she had scheduled, it would be possible March the 12th, from 5 to 7, which is next Wednesday. Okay, along with that, they also sent a flyer, and it is called the Development Symposium. And this is on March the 19th from 9 a.m. until 2 p.m., and it's in the Echo Center. And she said, and I can have Morgan send you out all these dates too, because I'm giving you a lot of dates. This is in the Ogden Echo Center, and it is rooted in growth, and she said it's on cultivating communities. And again, they're going to have planners there. There is a $25 charge, which could be, the city could cover that, and it's lunch included. And so she said this again would be for Planning Commission, City Council, City Planner, and that is March 19th from 9 to 2 at the Echo Center. And so again, I'll have Morgan forward you this flyer.
What's it called again?
It is called the Northern Utah Development Symposium.
Okay.
So, and there is a charge because it does include lunch. And so that's why there's a charge. But like I said, we can send this out to you. It says they would like us to register by March 16th if you are interested in going to that. And so we will send that out to you. Okay, so another thing, Luke in our Public Works has given his 2 weeks notice. He is going to start his own company. And so he has been working with roads, parks, sewer, well, anything Public Works related, yes. And so Morgan has talked to Jared, and Jared would like to have that job put out for open, and so we will do that because his last day will be 17th of March. So he was really great with that, so we appreciate that. Okay, another thing. I've had a few residents that have already reached out. It is warm weather now, and we have a lot of bikes in the roads. Not only are they in the roads, but they are on city property. They are riding in our detention ponds, and they're making quite a mess out of the grass in those ponds. Already down at the corner at 55 and 51, and I know, Bryce, we're meeting on Monday, which will be great because we're going to talk about some of the city-owned properties, and maybe there's something. But that's something I think as a council we need to decide what we want to do. If someone ends up getting injured on city-owned property, then where does the liability fall? And again, it's been nice weather, not today, but we have, and the main concern for the city, I feel like, with liability is they're on city property. And so, do you have any?
Did you say bikes?
There are like they're like motorcycles, four-wheelers.
We've had to put up signage on numerous places because of that same reason.
Yeah, but now they're riding in our detention ponds.
Put up a sign. I think
Yeah.
once you put up a sign that says no trespassing, whatever we did, no motorized vehicles, and that alleviates the city's
Liability.
liability.
Yeah.
That's what they say, no motorized vehicles. Yeah, that's what they say.
So I know that they, one of the neighbors said that he's called several times, but then by the time an officer gets there, they've already left. So they have a really hard time catching them. But I talked to Steve about it today, and Steve said they are literally ruining the grass in our detention ponds. He said Hooper Landing's one that always looks so nice. Now there's just big, deep ruts from him riding in there. It interferes with the grading, with the slope, so the water's not flowing properly.
Sergeant Slater, how do you
So-
suggest they handle it?
Best thing is just call when it's there. I mean, we can put it out if there's specific times that they're always there. That helps, but,
Probably need a sign before you can do much, though.
Yeah. And we know that's going to be, it was a problem last year, and already it's starting. But I don't really remember so much last year in our detention ponds, but maybe it's because we put the signs up in there. But there's already kids down here on this corner, and it does say no motorized vehicles, and they're already there. I've seen them there the last couple of days.
I think maybe one option is if someone knows who they are, turn that over to him and just go have a talk with him. Give him a warning, you know, I don't want him to get in trouble to say, hey, you're not supposed to do this, you're costing the city money. And just keep a record of, you know, who's doing it, and hopefully they quit and they learn their lesson. Because when I was a kid, I probably would have been one of those kids, you know? But once you say, hey, don't do it, I think they'll listen.
If we know who they are, we can help address that.
We had all sorts of problems last year down by the park with a lot of kids, and I know Steve said that he stopped them several times. Steve said, I spend a lot of time getting this grass to be nice. They were not very respectful, and they did not stop. And I know, you know, back when it was Lieutenant Laybury, I called him nonstop, and they would come in. But anyway, well, then we'll tell them to get signs up. That's the first step, and I think to put the signs up, and then you know, we have a newsletter that's going to be coming out here shortly, and maybe we could even have something in the newsletter that just reminds them that they're not allowed to ride on city property. So, okay, so one other thing real quick. So back in 2004, Hooper City and Hooper Irrigation signed a franchise agreement, which was kind of a, we want to be neighborly, we know we need to help each other. Hooper Irrigation was putting in their secondary system, and they were putting a lot of pipes in our right-of-way. And then also, we were hooking up to that secondary water, and so we signed an agreement that says we won't charge you for all the excavation fees, you won't charge us for the hookup. One thing that has to be done, and it probably won't be done now, but we're planning on starting that this fall, is we're going to be hooking at the cemetery to secondary water. They've been watering out of the canal, which has been fine, but not really, because then when they take that water out of the canal, then that takes water away from the farmer that might be waiting for that water downstream. So I met with Hooper Irrigation yesterday, and they said to ask City Council if you are still okay with that, with this franchise agreement that we will not charge them, they will not charge us, and we will work together. And I feel like it's a good thing to do. I said to, you know, the President Hancock, I said, I don't see any reason for Hooper to send you a bill, to you to send us a bill. I think we should be working together. And so is that something you're still agreeable with doing?
I think it's highly in our favor. Wouldn't you agree?
Most definitely.
I think so. You know, Jared, like I got some prices today. Jared was out today with some health issues, but I got some prices of how much we charge for excavating fees, and since we've been charging some of our, so it's like 40 cents, I think it was a square foot. So back when they put all that pipe in our right-of-way, it would have been substantial. Okay, on their part, when we hook up to a water feed, to hook up a connection like at the cemetery, that's also substantial. And so he said if we're agreeable to it, he will take it back to their board of directors on Monday and see if they're still agreeable. And then, you know, we don't know if we want to sign something new, because like I say, that was 2004, but they do have something in place. But, you know, there'll be that water connection. So we have water in the back, the new part of the cemetery, there's a connection, but that doesn't really work to water the front, but it is already stubbed in the road. Dirk Bailey, when I talked to him, it's already there, we just have to hook into it. But when we water the pickleball courts, we also are going to have to do a water connection, and those are quite substantial now. So, okay, everybody feel like that's so okay, and we can say we're okay to keep doing that?
Yes, I do. I think it's a great thing for the city. I think we will benefit a great deal.
He's
Yeah,
gonna
I
take it to the
agree.
board. The president's gonna, so they haven't really decided yet. He's gonna take it to the board. and
So
find out.
he's going to say, just like I presented to you, we've had this franchise agreement since 2004. Hooper City still is agreeable to keep this in place. Are you still agreeable to keep this in place? And, you know, he felt really good about it. I feel really good about it. And if you do, and we'll see how the board feels. But, you know, we are neighbors, even though we're two separate companies. We need to work together. There's been times when we've taken a tractor down to help them, and there certainly are times when they've been here to help us, and I think that's how it should be, so. Yeah, okay, well, anything else then, before we,
I have a question.
yes,
When we talked about, was it LRB that came and did the fiscal
Yes.
study?
yes.
commission.
Mhm.
And I think we even brought up a possible public hearing for that. But I mean, I don't know what was said, I can't remember. Is that gonna be on their next agenda?
Well, it isn't, because they're not going to be talking. The Terra Strata is not coming in March. They're probably not coming until April is when they were, so they thought it was kind of in coordination with that. When they came, they would come. We have already done a public hearing for that, but, you know, we don't necessarily need to do another public hearing, but yes, we will see if they will be willing. We'll probably, they'll probably have to be paid, I'm assuming. It was only one time in their contract.
So that gentleman,
Seems like he said he'd come
said he
again.
would
didn't
come.
he said he was
Yeah.
agreeable to come and do it again.
Yeah.
So I wonder if he came, if Terra Strata's not coming in March, maybe he comes in March. Give people some time to digest it.
Yeah, we have a pretty big agenda because
You
we
do in
had a
March?
meeting last time, and I think we've had 3 additional things that have added on since then. But we could certainly check and see if he could come then.
That'll be up to the planning commission.
Yeah, that's-
down
Well, depending on how we move forward with the public comment.
Oh, yeah.
I may see that on the agenda, they can get up and comment prior to or whenever we decide to put it in here on that. And it's not called a public hearing.
Sure.
Well, it doesn't have to be a
Let's
public
put a
hearing, it's a
time-
public presentation.
Public comment, presentation, yeah, whatever. So I think there's some people that wanted to comment and had a couple of questions. or whatever. We gotta give them the opportunity.
Okay, well, thank you. We'll move up to our regular meeting then. Thank you.
My hips just went out. Which is not good. I had one replaced last year. This is the other one. Well, I've got a bad. I'll get it. Right now.
Recording in progress.
We would like to welcome everyone to our March 6th City Council meeting. We appreciate all of you being here. I am Mayor Sherry Bingham and I will be conducting this meeting. We are going to start the meeting. Oh, before I say that, we have Debbie Maragoni on Zoom, so we want to welcome her with us here as well. I will go ahead and do the Pledge of Allegiance, and then the reverence will be given by Councilmember Wilcox. Everyone, please stand. Repeat after me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Our Heavenly Father, we give thanks today for all the blessings that we have and enjoy, and for the freedoms we enjoy, and for this great country and great community we live in. We ask that Thou would be with us to make the best choices for our community, and so that it'll be enjoyable for generations to come. We give thanks to those who protect our city and our freedoms. Bless them and protect them from harm. And we say this in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Thank you. I just want to announce about some upcoming events we have. So every third Monday, we have a tomato jam that is here at the Civic Center, and that is at 7 o'clock, where local entertainers can come and they enjoy music with another. So that's the third Monday. On the third Tuesday of every month here at 7 o'clock, we have our volunteer committees that meet. This time they're going to specifically be talking about economic development, so if any of you are interested in coming to that. And then on the third Wednesday of every month, we have our emergency preparedness, and that is actually at 6:30 to 8 o'clock. And so we have those three that are coming up. Another thing I want to announce to you is on April the 12th from 8 to 1 o'clock, that's a Saturday, the city will be doing their cleanup day. And that's when we have the dumpsters here in the parking lot. There are some specifics as far as oil. I don't remember the exact list. I apologize. I'll have that next meeting. I can read that off to you. But there is on the Facebook page that's the Hooper City. It lists what things are not allowed. But it'll be here. The dumpsters are here, and it's free for all residents to come. We have our public works that will be here to help you. Sometimes people have a heavier thing. They will have like a tractor, a backhoe that will help you get those items into the dumpster. And so we wanted you to be aware of that. So the first thing then on our agenda for our consent items are the approval of the minutes dated February 20th. Has everyone had a chance to look through those?
I'll just go. Oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say just a correction on my last name spelling is all.
Way to be picky. The only thing I can see is on the last part of it where it talks about the allegations were dropped against Amanda. It says charges. So I think that probably needs to, because she was never charged, I think that needs to be replaced by allegations.
And the only other thing I saw, but I probably did say this wrong, is that the emergency preparedness is the third Wednesday, not the second. And so I'm not sure if I said that wrong, we have it wrong, I'm not sure, but that was one correction that I noticed. Oh, and then remind me, I'll tell one more thing. Okay, any other discussion on that? Okay, with those corrections then, is there someone that would like to make the motion?
I'll make a motion that we accept the minutes from February 20th, 2025 as corrected.
The motion was made by Councilmember Maragoni. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Second is made by Councilmember Flowers. Any discussion on that motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. One thing I forgot to mention, I apologize, as far as upcoming events, the City Council will be doing a budget work meeting on March the 27th at 6 o'clock. And so all of you are welcome to come and listen to that budget meeting. Okay, so the next thing we have then is we have a public hearing, and this is on a request to open the general plan from the Lowell Company. So I need someone to make a motion that we will move into a public hearing.
I'll make a motion that we move into a public hearing.
Motion was made by Councilmember Wilcox. Is there a second? Second was made by Councilmember Maragoni. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we are now going to move into a public hearing then. So what we ask you is that you come up to where the podium is with a microphone. Please state your name. Your comments can be limited to 3 minutes. Our city recorder will have some signs that she will hold up at the time of your 3 minutes. If you're not finished, then we will ask you to please have a seat and we will move on to the next person. So we're in our public hearing. Is there anyone that would like to come up and make a comment?
I didn't really want to, but I'm Michelle Maragoni, and I live in Hooper. My comment is more procedural. Looking back at this, I don't know that there was ever a public hearing on this, opening the general plan for this with the Planning Commission. And the state code specifies that the Planning Commission shall do the public hearing for that. So I went to the Planning Commission, they made a recommendation, but there was no public hearing. So we're doing the public hearing now. I feel like there was a step missed in the procedure. And that, I'm a reporter, so that gives me. But yeah, it's very specific that the public hearing shall be done by the Planning Commission, not by the council. So that's all I have.
Okay, thank you. I remember we discussed this after, and it had already been on the agenda before it was noticed as a public hearing. And Brandon had given us direction that we do need to have one public hearing, and he told us we could do it at this meeting. So that's, again, but thank you for that. Are there any other public comments?
Dylan Robinson. I am a Hooper resident. I think that's what you want to know. I disagree with opening the general plan currently. I don't think it's needed. This particular developer has shown little interest in what's best for Hooper and big interest in what's best for his pocketbook in previous meetings, as well as legally threatening council and other very nice things of him to do. So I would just not recommend opening the general plan currently.
Okay, thank you. Is there any other comments in our public hearing section?
Blake Maragoni, Hooper. So what's the direction on this? I'm just going to open the general plan willy-nilly, or is there? I see this. So is this to adjust the overlay to allow something like that? Is that what we're kind of opening it for? Because I mean, I see this, and if this is a zoning request, that's fine. But currently it's zoned R1 with an overlay of R1, no overlay of anything else. So is the opening the general plan just to allow R3 amendment or overlay to go onto the future land use map? That's just where I'm confused, so I just wasn't sure.
Okay, thank you. So what this is tonight then, this is a public hearing, and then what the council will be discussing is if they are willing to open the general plan as far as doing an amendment to the land use. That doesn't mean that there will be any zoning done tonight. In order to do that, it goes back to Planning Commission.
You good?
Yes.
I know, it's the allergies. So, Travis Bates, resident of Hooper. Look, we've been talking about this chunk of property for quite a while, and it seems like it keeps bouncing back and forth between council and Planning Commission. Look, I don't fault the landowners or the developers for wanting to maximize profits. I think you or I would do that as well if we owned that property or owned any piece of property. I think that's absolutely their right. However, if we're going to talk about opening the general plan, and we are looking at that for other properties as well, I think we need to separate out what purpose does this serve Hooper. I think other developments we're looking at, you know, there's potential gain there. I don't think adding this many residents to that side of town really benefits Hooper at all. Obviously, it does benefit people being able to move to Hooper, which is great, but it is a draw on infrastructure. I know that the infrastructure can handle it. However, we don't collect a property tax in our city, and this would drain resources such as law enforcement, fire, emergency towards that end of town, and it would put a lot of extra traffic on that road nearby to that new school. So I don't think this is wise. You know, personal feelings aside, I try and weigh everything out, but I am a little concerned. I don't like the way that I feel like the developers have tried to put Hooper over a barrel with this project. I don't like the threats. All that aside, I don't think it serves a good purpose for Hooper City. So thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other comments?
My name is Clint Hancock. I live here in Hooper as well. This pretty much started for me. I came here, I grew up here, just in Taylor, played in all the ditches, catching frogs, hunting the fields, pheasants, catching carp. The reason I approached Matt, my boss, was I was like, hey, I can't find lots. It's few and far between. I want to be able to build a home, create memories like I did as a kid here with my own family. And I got friends and family that are also looking for places. So that's how this all started. The rehab center, I just want to go on record, I always was against that. Not that I think it's needed. It is, but I don't feel this is the place for it. I do feel homes do benefit the area. Kids, family, all want to come back here. I came back here because my family's here. So I feel like it is kind of denying other people of that same benefit. Luckily, I was able to find one. Was it ideal? Was it the one I wanted? Not necessarily. I wanted to be able to build my own house. I still couldn't do it. But I just wanted to let everybody know, like, this all started because I wanted to be close to family and build a home. So that's where we're at today. So, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else?
Janice Robinson, I'm a resident of Hooper, and mine's kind of more of a question, and probably it's my lack of understanding on exactly what it means by opening up the general plan. On a request like this to open the general plan, is that opening the general plan like entirely in that anybody with other properties in a situation like this could then, you know, the general plan's open, they can now put in a request for their section to be amended, or is this opening of the general plan specific to this property? So I guess there's a concern of if this is more like a widespread opening door for other people or setting precedents for other parcels of land to then request an opening. Is, you know, if you approve an opening of the plan and an amendment for one person's property, what's kind of going to stop you from doing it for others? And so there's kind of that difficulty of if you let one and you know consider an opening of the general plan to potentially eventual rezone for one property, there is the question of what's going to keep you from doing that for any others.
Reed, do you want to answer that? I
think the request is just to open it for this project. It may have some precedential value, yes.
That's what I was going to say as well. It is parcel specific. Thank you, Reed. Okay, any other comments?
Dan Warwood. Do I need to give you my address?
No.
Okay. Like, the question I have a lot about this is lot 73, 21 acres. Who's going to take care of that? That's my question. Who's gonna take care of all that? Lot 73, which is in the very back end, who's gonna be maintaining that fitness center and all that other stuff? That's the question. Is the developer gonna be responsible for that for the rest of the time that is all there? Who's gonna cut the weeds, who's gonna mow the grass, you know, and maintain all the equipment that they're gonna put there? That's a question I have, and I'm not really open to, you know, changing the plan that we went on and did this for, went to the whole, you know, all the citizens and went through all this to just go in and say, oh yeah, let's change this now. So that's my question. The biggest thing is, who's gonna take care of the 21 acres? Thank you.
Thank you.
Amanda Prince, I'm a Hooper resident. My question is regarding our city ordinance 10-5-4 zoning ordinance amendments. I only caught part of the meeting because I was late and I was trying to listen on YouTube. But from what I heard discussed, it sounded like you guys were supposed to make a decision on whether or not you're going to open the general plan tonight. And then they're going to come back with something that they want to do. And so in our ordinance, it says, if accepted, the city council will open, modify, and close the future land use map portion of the general plan in one meeting. So I'm confused how that would work. I just had a question on that. Thank you.
Can you read the section on that title one more time?
10-5-4.
But the title of the actual heading?
It is
I think that was the one that was passed last summer.
zoning ordinance amendments.
And I think the idea was that we would do it all at one time for that piece of property, not for the whole world. So if you were going to consider doing it today, you'd have to decide whether you want to open the plan, then whether you want to amend the map, and then close it again, and then go back down to the planning commission and decide what to do from there.
I would have to read it, but just my simple opinion, obviously we need to do a little research in light of that, but I was under the impression this would simply be opening the plan in consideration of that concept. The zoning amendment would take place.
Well, this would have nothing to do with zoning.
Well, wouldn't it have to change the zone because aren't they asking for, like it's currently zoned R1. My understanding they're wanting to put some lots in here that are a lot smaller than that. So if the council decides they're going to open it, and it says in our ordinance that they have to open it, amend it, and close it in the same meeting, my concern is if you guys decide that you're going to open it, you're agreeing to whatever is being presented right here, changing it, and then closing it in the same meeting. I'm just not sure how that works, and I realize some things have changed, but that's currently how our ordinance reads in the one that you just barely approved in February.
Yeah, I think what they do is open the plan, and then they change the map. That wouldn't change the zoning. It would change the possibility to change the zoning, but it wouldn't actually change the zoning. It would just change the map and say the future plan map would allow that change in zoning if it were requested. So that could all be done in one time. Now, what they also could do, and this may make more sense, is just say you'll consider all of it, but you want to study it further to decide whether you want to move ahead or not. I don't know that you're ready, maybe you are, to actually change the map at this point.
Are there any other comments?
Cammy Hubbard, citizen of Hooper. I think they have a second alternative for half-acre lots. Can we look at that? Because I think half-acre lots fit in to the area. There's half-acre lots all around there. And there is a lift station that is ready and able to accept houses in that area. Thank you.
Are there any other comments? Okay, seeing no other comments then, I will entertain a motion to move us from our public hearing back to our regular meeting.
I'll make that motion.
Motion was made by Councilmember Hill. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Second was made by Councilmember Flowers. Any discussion on the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we are now moving back into our regular meeting. Is there a presentation by the law group that would welcome you to come up?
Okay, yeah.
If you want me to talk between the
Okay.
renderings of them.
Perfect. Yeah, thank you for having me here today, really appreciate it. What kind of procedurally, how I understood this, when kind of working up for the application, we did talk to Malcolm about just applying for a zone change, and we were told that it was too premature for that. So they said, before you could even ask for a zone change, which would allow us to do something besides 1 acre lots in here, we would have to apply for just the permission to open up the general plan. So we kind of look at this as just, if you guys entertain this motion to open up the general plan, then we could have a discussion. Because I think right now, we've kind of brought some concepts, some ideas, but really the idea is just saying, can we have a discussion about what can go here, that either 1 acre, half acre, something different than what it's zoned with right now. So that's kind of my understanding of this. So we brought some ideas of what we thought could be uses in here that would be possibilities, but obviously that would be at a later date where we would kind of request the zone change to actually say, hey, we would like to either do half acre or third acre. The two different options we brought here today was there could be one option that we would consider is just doing half acre minimum on the whole thing, but we wouldn't be able to do a park amenity. And I think this is the one where it's just a minimum of a half acre. The first one that we had on there, we had a park amenity that would be open to the general public, and then would actually be maintained by the HOA, so there'd be no cost to the city, and there'd be an over 20 acre park with a lot of different amenities, pickleball, volleyball, disc golf, things like that the HOA would maintain, but it'd be 100% open to the public. So we thought that'd be a nice amenity, but to do that, we had to go a little denser than half acre. That one would have a minimum of third acre lots. But it was really just to have a discussion, on what Hooper would be willing to entertain. And so that would probably be if you decided to open up the general plan, we could have a discussion on what were possibilities that besides the current zoning, which is 1 acre. I know Weber County's allowing enhanced density on projects if you pay into a park fee, and they're using that because I think they've done studies and feel like that's a big benefit in the communities. So they've taken that approach, and so that's why we actually developed an amenity package that'd be open to the general public. That would be no burden to Hooper City, but we need some density to make that happen. And so I guess the other thing I would say is, 1 acre zoning is almost impossible today. We could probably sell 1 or 2 or 3 1 acre lots per year, but really to get affordable housing, and not even really affordable housing, with the cost of all the inputs to put lots in, 1 acre just doesn't work as a developer. And so it doesn't pencil, and it doesn't pencil for any of the end users, or very many of the end users. Yeah, there's occasional people that can afford to have a 1 acre lot, but it's not really the people we're seeing. And so to get a viable subdivision, we don't think the 1 acre works. We think the half acre is very reasonable. We even think third acre, still think that's very low density. And so if this is untenable for Hooper, I would think likely on the remainder of the parcels that we don't have, it's probably likely going to sit, and at a future date, something else is going to come in here, and there's going to be another plan so that you can look at it at a different date. But 1 acre, I don't see 1 acre working, honestly, on any large scale. It doesn't work for the end user. It doesn't work for the demographics. The other big hot topic is affordable housing. The only way you get affordable housing is density. And so if that's something that Hooper is saying, well, we'll deal with that later, we don't really need to do that, then that's great. But to get affordable housing and to make it attainable for people that are anywhere near the median income in Utah, you have to get some density. And so that's what we're trying to do, get a product type that would be attainable. And we put the park in because we thought it'd be a nice amenity and no cost to Hooper. So that's kind of where we're at. And really just saying, are you guys interested in having a conversation about possibilities? Because I think we open up the general plan, at the end of the day, we could apply for a zone change, and you could come back to us and be like, no, we still want to keep it the 1 acre. So I really look at it, if we open up the general plan, it's going to be a conversation. But, and if you don't want to open it up, it's like, no, we don't want to have that conversation. And that's okay. And I get that. And so this will give me some really good clarity on which direction we want to go. If it's okay to have a conversation, or no, it's not appropriate to have a conversation.
Okay, thank you. Council, do you have questions?
Yeah. Okay, Matt, I'm gonna ask you. So, the drug and alcohol facility, do you ever really want to do that, or is that off the table? So what's the take on that?
We went over this at Planning Commission, and there was a lot of conditions, and the conditions, honestly, I felt like we were being set up to fail. I got the meeting minutes from some of the meeting minutes with the previous city attorney, and it was like, hey, if they do this and this, we can shut them down. And so the approval's still on the table. I reached out, I met with residents, and they said, hey, is there alternatives to do besides this? And I said, well, I first applied for a subdivision. I'm willing to look into that. This is an alternative. Right now, my plans, based on how I feel like it's the amount of resistance I have, and with the conditions, I feel like the drug and alcohol is being set up to fail. And so that's why I completely pivoted. I'm not very excited to spend the millions of dollars it's going to take to put that in if I feel like I'm being set up to fail. And that's my opinion. Somebody else might feel differently, but I felt like there was discussions, and I had, I had meeting minutes, recordings of things that what people were saying made me very uncomfortable.
Okay. So from our perspective, you got to realize that it looks like it was a leverage piece, put upon the city to get what you wanted. That's the optics of it. I mean, quite frankly, I've had a lot of people reach out to me, and it kind of appears that way. And I commend you for wanting to develop this, and yeah, it's going to be developed someday, and we need to be real cautious of what we do. But what we hear all the time is how this is going to benefit the city, the community. And like we talked about in our work meeting, the only benefit that I see is great people are going to move here, and you're going to provide housing. As far as an economic component, it's not for the city. It's going to cost us infrastructure, maintenance, all that kind of thing, because we really don't have a property tax to help maintain that. And I know you want to do what's right for the city, and we want you to do that as well. So I've been doing some thinking on this property, and maybe you've already thought of this, but I'm just going to throw something out there that I would be, in favor of higher density, probably even much higher than half acre. I think you have 93 acres, right? And 20 or 30 something are non-buildable. That's where your park and that stuff is. So why don't you have a concept where you can utilize those acres and not just put a park out there. You could very easily on 60 acres do a 9-hole, 3-part golf course, and utilize that wetlands. And then up front, you have your high density housing. You're going to be less roads, you're going to be less infrastructure. Maybe build a clubhouse, a pro shop, maybe even a mini golf. I could get on board on something like that, and honestly, I was looking at Roy's and some of the others around there. They have a lot of homes around the golf course, 60 plus, and those lots would probably go for more, because let's be honest, this is not affordable housing. There's not a component of affordable housing in this project unless we require you to do something. There could be quite a few lots in there. Maybe you have to partner up with the guys north of you to make it happen. But you do have enough property to do something like that. And I would like you to put some pencil and paper together and see what you come up with. But I could get on board on something like that. But this, I have a little bit of a problem, just because it's just going to be a drain on us. It's going to be a drain on our community and our infrastructure. But yeah, you'd probably be surprised how many homes and lots you could get on there. You'd probably get just as much money for a small lot as you are for the half acre around a golf course. That's my opinion, my thought. I could be way off base, but I've done a little bit of research, and I think that piece is doable.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, I kind of, that's what I thought, is opening up the general plan, then we could have that conversations about possibilities. So we're open to possibilities. I hadn't even thought about that.
So I think what you want to do is just, if you're willing to talk about those things, open it up for discussion. I think Amanda's right. If you actually open the general plan, you got to take some action.
Right.
But you can always say, we'll consider opening the general plan, and let's talk about what your development would look like, and then decide whether to do it or not. Perfectly able to do that.
That's kind of what I was gonna say, thanks Reed. We can have any discussion you want to have any day of the week on concepts, developers agreements, things like that. What are the options, what are the possibilities? We can do all of that without opening the general plan, today. If as a council, we see something that appeals to us, like Bryce just talked about, maybe something with commercial development, maybe a 55 plus option where residents can go and retire at a place like this. The possibilities are endless, but something more than just sketching lots on a piece of paper. We've seen that. We're kind of tired of that, to be honest with you. And we'd like something a little bit more appeasing to the city of Hooper and the residents of Hooper. And so we can have that conversation anytime you want. Sit down with the staff and the council, planning commission, and throw ideas and bounce ideas off each other and come up with a plan that works for everybody. And then we have a discussion about opening the general plan once we, find a concept that we all are happy with.
So then when I make an application, I guess where I'm confused is, I guess that would be a work meeting, but because I don't know what application would I pull for that, saying, to try to march that along.
I don't think there would be an application for what was just described, right?
Because typically when I do that, I would apply for a zone change, and then I present potential options and kind of work that out. So it kind of puts me in no man's land where I don't know how do I get on the agenda if I'm applying, because I actually wanted to just apply for zone change, but then I was told you can't apply for a zone change unless we agree to open up the general plan. So I feel like I'm in no man's land right now.
Well, it seems to me like you have some pretty good guidance.
What was that?
It seems to me like, turn that on. Seems to me like you've got some pretty good guidance. You need to have a concept meeting with the city personnel, and maybe a few commissioners from the planning commission and some council members and the mayor and the planning department, and come up with some ideas that would justify them considering opening the general plan. And if you come to some consensus there, then you can move ahead with an attempt to open the plan.
Okay, so but you're saying if we open up the plan, so you couldn't open up the plan and just not take action. So let's say you did open up the plan, couldn't you just go back and say we still want to keep it 1 acre?
They could open up the plan for everybody that way, but if we can open it up for a specific project like you've asked them to do, you have to do as the statute says, as the ordinance says, open the plan, make the change, close the plan. But if you want to open the plan in total for everybody that wants to apply, you could request that. I don't see that being granted, but you could request it.
Okay.
So at this point, you just need to come in and request a concept meeting, and whoever we want to come to that concept meeting, I would be prepared, come with some better plans than what you presented here tonight, some better options perhaps that we've just talked about. But come and request the concept meeting, and we'll set a date and a time and meet and talk about some options, and then proceed from there.
Well, while I'm here, if you could indulge me, what would be some of those things that would be of interest if you could give me some feedback? So I'm getting some feedback here that, a subdivision, a half acre, lots with half acre, that's kind of like this would be very appealing. What is appealing? I heard from you maybe having some type of city amenity.
I think something like that, and you could probably get pretty dang close to your, just looking at it, you could probably get 60, 70 smaller lots. I don't know. You'd have to just put that together, but you'd probably be surprised that it'd probably pencil out pretty good. Another thing is, and I don't know if this is a revenue-based thing, but yeah, that's probably not gonna work. Soccer fields, but that's not gonna work for you, because obviously you wanna make money, and I don't blame you. But on the flip side, we've gotta have something that's sustainable and that's gonna be benefit the community long-term. But I really, because I put a little bit of time in looking at that, and I think you'd be surprised. Look at the golf course option. I think the people around here really support it. And you would probably get your density that would pencil out, because those smaller lots are probably gonna be worth more money than your half acre. I would think, but I don't know. I'm not a developer.
Yeah, well, appreciate it. Well, thank you for the feedback. I appreciate it.
I just have one comment I was going to mention. One thing I know as we're up here talking about this is a concern. As has been mentioned, we don't have a very big property tax here in Hooper. The average home in Hooper pays approximately $100 a year in property tax that comes to Hooper. So you put in 90 homes, and each of those 90 homes pay their $100 back to Hooper. Hooper gets $9,000. Well, I can tell you for $9,000, we can't even afford to pay our people to go plow your roads, take care of they're brand new roads to begin with, but then in a few years they have potholes, they have to be crack sealed, eventually overlays. So I think, when we're saying, how is this going to benefit Hooper? Yes, we love the people that live here, and we appreciate all those new people, but I feel like as a council, we have to be really conscientious that if we're going to open this up to just a lot more homes, how, as a city of Hooper, are we going to maintain that? Yeah. Because that $9,000 isn't going to do it. Not at all. It doesn't even pay our overtime when it snows and we have to send our men out to be plowing the roads. So I think you've been given hopefully some good ideas that you might want to come back and present something that, yes, we're not saying we don't want more people to move to Hooper, but then it can't just always only be just an expense for Hooper. There has to be something that we feel like could possibly end up benefiting the city as well.
Great, yeah. No, thank you very much. I have a family commitment, so I'm gonna have to step out a little early, but I appreciate your time. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So this was actually a motion on our agenda tonight. So I don't know if there's a motion someone would like to make.
I'll make a motion for the request to open the general plan from Low Company be denied at this time until further concepts are presented to the city.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, a motion was made by Councilmember Northrup. It was seconded by Councilmember Hill. Any discussion on the motion? All in favor?
I have a brief discussion point I want to bring up just from their standpoint. Obviously, we're having a little bit of confusion here in our internal process. Obviously, I'd be frank. So that being said, as Amanda brought up, I think if you make a motion like that they will be by ordinance prohibited for 12 months to come back. That sound accurate to you guys?
That's true.
So I would maybe so that we don't get stuck by ordinance so that we can't work with them moving forward.
I'll redo it then. Okay. I will make a motion that the request to open the general plan from Low Company at this time be tabled until further concepts can be presented to the city.
I'll second that.
Okay, motion was made by Councilmember Northrup, seconded by Councilmember Hill. Any discussion on that motion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Okay, the next thing on our agenda is a discussion motion as far as our legal interim services. I think, Bryce, you have some information you want to share on that, and also the RFP. I don't know if we want to do the first one, and then we can talk about the second.
I just have a motion. It's written out just so it's pretty clear, so it's kind of long. But basically, we want to retain Brandon and Reed Richards as our legal. And so there's no need to have an interim service, and they have agreed to So that's basically it. I do have a motion, if you're prepared for that, or if there's any other discussions, or? No? Okay. So I'll go ahead and motion, I'm just gonna read it. I motion that we do not enact interim legal services as they are not necessary, but instead retain the legal services of Reed and Brandon Richards as Hooper City attorneys as we have for the past 25 years, with no interruption to their services. As we did with JUB, we will have Reed and Brandon sign a contract that can be provided to the Utah State Auditor. All wording in the contract, including the scope of legal services and legal support provided, will be reviewed and adjusted as necessary by the City Council, and will be approved by the City Council. This motion also makes clear that there will be no RFP posted for legal services.
Okay, a motion was made by Council Member Wilcox. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
The second was made by Council Member Fowers. Is there any discussion on that motion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Okay, the next thing on our agenda is a discussion and a motion to amend HCC 114 meeting agenda public comment. If that's what I understand, Councilmember Wilcox, it was included in your motion. Okay, so now we are on to D, as far as to amend the meeting agenda, public comment. And in your packet, you saw what it currently lists as far as what that is. We discussed in our work meeting, this has been here since the city became a city in November of 2000. There are currently some things listed here that we no longer do in our, as far as our agenda. So we probably need to have a discussion on maybe even some of these items and then what you want to do as far as that.
I personally would like to see some citizen comment allowed in there, that so our residents can feel like they have a say in what's going on. We could limit this to a certain amount and a certain time frame, and they would be limited to the 3 minutes. But I feel that's an important aspect of our agenda.
Okay, any other comments with this? With saying that, do you want to move citizen comments to the beginning? Do you want to leave them at the end? Is this something you want to think about for a little bit? And like we mentioned, some of these, so in the original meetings, if you go back to the minutes, they were listed just like this, but we really don't do this the same anymore. So I don't know if there's a different way we want to word this. I mean, of course, the approval of the minutes of previous meetings are always there. Sometimes we have business licenses, but not always. As far as the verbal petitions, presentation of the mayor, and finished business could be on there, but we really don't list these necessarily. So, comments on that?
I think we, try something different. Well, in the past, it's been towards the front. I say we go ahead and try to put them at the front, so it gives some citizens time to speak. Obviously, in our work meeting, there was some pros and cons of both. Then every meeting's a public hearing. Maybe we put a time limit on them or a number, like Lieutenant Slater was talking about. But maybe we put it on there, and there's probably going to have to be some adjustments made as time goes on. But I think the most important thing is I think the real reason is we want to make sure our citizens have an opportunity to make comments within a structured forum, and also not take all night. So whatever that looks like.
Go ahead. Okay. I just pulled out an old agenda from May of 2023, and item number 3 was the public comments on agenda items, similar to what we did tonight, but without making it a public hearing. And then There's also the declaration of conflicts of interest or disclosures by council members, which is no longer on the agenda, which may be a good attribute to put back on there.
So would you like to have, because up until, I think I had it written down, let's see. So starting November 7th, this we're talking about last year, we only had public comments at the end, but it wasn't until January 16th that we changed that, and it said these were, and they were also at the end, but it was on not for agenda items. So do you want to have public comments at the beginning and the end as well? Do you want to only have them at one time?
I would recommend just having them one time at the first of the meeting and not say only agenda items. It could be anything they could comment on. I'm with Bryce and Lieutenant Slater. Let's limit it to 30 minutes. Actually, I think Debbie said that. To start with, let's limit to 30 minutes, so that'd be 10 comments at 3 minutes apiece. And just adapt to our needs. You know, we can always change it, but I think we should do opening ceremony, let the mayor talk about upcoming events, and then go into public comment, and then do, like our agenda says tonight, consent items, public hearings, action items, and adjournment. But put the citizens' comments after mayor business or upcoming events.
Okay, any other comments on that? If not, is there someone then that would like to make that motion, that we make that adjustment in our municipal code? And like you said, we can try it. And if we like the way it goes, then, you know, it certainly is something flexible that we can do.
I'll make a motion to amend HCC 1-1-4 meeting agenda as we've discussed.
Okay, the motion was made by Councilmember Hill. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second was,
You want to actually do an ordinance then? Is that what you're thinking of, or just try it for a while and then do an ordinance? If it's an ordinance, we need to draft it in ordinance form, I guess is the point. Maybe just try it.
Can we do that without doing an ordinance?
I think so, yeah, it gives you pretty good flexibility there.
Yeah, let's try it for 90 days or whatever, and then make it an ordinance.
okay, so do you want to, so the motion will be then, we're not necessarily going to amend our code per se. It will just be a trial for 90 days. So that motion was made by Councilmember Hill. Councilmember Maragoni, are you still all right to second that?
Yes, I'm fine with that.
Okay, so second is made by Councilmember Maragoni. Any discussion on the motion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Motion carries. We have some new microphones with a few little learning curves. Okay, the next thing on our agenda then, tonight, because it was listed on our agenda this way, then we are going to be following it for tonight. We have citizen comments. You are allowed 3 minutes, and this is for things that are not on the agenda. Is there anyone that would like to come and make a comment?
Kelly Cook, I'm a Hooper resident. I first of all want to thank you guys for the service you give our community. I love Hooper. I've lived here for 4 years. My comment is related to the meeting that you guys had last week on Tuesday night. As you can tell, it's made me very emotional. I feel like a lot of fingers have been pointed at both Sherry and Dale and their families, and I agree the issue stems from there. But I feel like a lot of other people are involved in this, and I would include every member of the City Council, the City Planning Commission, city staff, and even members of our community. But I would ask, if you truly do have that closed-door meeting, that you remember that Sherry was elected by the majority of the people that voted to be our mayor, based on 25 years ago when this city was created and the rules that were set forth then for the way our government would run. And I feel like if you guys, the 5 of you, think you can just strip her of her powers in just in one meeting, when the majority of the city voted for her. How is that not taking away our right as citizens? Now, I love and appreciate every one of you, and I'm not taking sides here, but I'm asking every member in this room and everybody on the commission, on the council, and in the city offices in our city to stop the bias. There is a lot of bias that is here, and it is so evident and so clear. You can read it, you can see it, and you can feel it. And if you're involved in that closed-door meeting, please look at yourself and ask yourself what you have done or have not done to contribute to this. And if you can't get over your differences and work together for the good of the city and the good of the community that voted for you to look out for the good of our city, then maybe you should consider stepping back too. And that's all I have to say. I know I'm just a measly little citizen of this community, but I love Hooper and I hate what's going on here, and it needs to stop. I'm begging you to make it stop. We love our city and we want everybody to realize what you have or haven't done to make this an issue that shouldn't even be going on. And once again, thank you for your service. Our son served on the council years ago, and I know it's a hard job. And so in saying this, I thank you for what you've done, but ask you to please do what you need to do. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Is there any other public comments? Okay, seeing no other comments then, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Sherry, can I make one comment?
Yes.
Thank you, Mrs. Cook, for getting up and saying that. I just wanted to follow up with that too, because in the heat of the moment, last time we met, and all the media frenzy and everything else going on, I mistakenly put some people in a category I did not mean to do, and I apologize publicly to members of Sherry's family and Dale's family that I put in that category just by saying one word, and I said and their families, and I do apologize for doing that, because there are many on both sides, kids, grandkids, spouses, etc., that have done their best to stay away from the public fray, and I do commend you for doing that. And so, again, I apologize, and I really do hope we can work through things and make our city a better place. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. A motion, is there someone that would like to make a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Okay.
And I'll second it.
Okay, motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you.